New construction can become an absolute nightmare.
One homeowner says his house has crooked walls and his neighbors' roofs are caving in.
Friends of ours had mold in their house.
These guys are fraudsters.
They're being left holding the bag after the subdivision developer pulled out without finishing the job.
You're probably considering new construction because you want something that's going to be turnkey and high quality, but unfortunately, that's just not always the case. So in this video, we're talking about reasons we would never buy a new construction home. The first thing we're talking about is the high cost of new construction. So out the gate, when you're buying a new construction home, you're always going to be paying a premium for that product. Kind of like buying a new car. As soon as you drive it off the lot, you're going to anticipate a lot more depreciation.
What plays a lot into that is one, the land the builder's having to buy, and two, the materials they're having to purchase ahead of time while still considering their profit margin. So you, as the first buyer, are taking the brunt of those costs.
There can also be a lot of hidden fees like add-ons and upgrades. Most buyers, when they're looking at the purchase price of a home, they see, oh, it's listed at $400,000, and they think that that's the price that they're gonna purchase it at. Well, the reality is, when you're touring a model home, every light fixture, every little add-on becomes a ticket item that the builder adds on top of that price. So sometimes when you're budgeting for a home, it can be way more expensive than you're actually anticipating it to be.
And those dollars are typically going straight to the builder, not towards your loan, not towards your equity, not towards anything but that actual upgrade. And so yes, it does look beautiful, but that is why it's a little hidden in what it might actually cost you to get the house you want. Something else to consider is where your house even sits might cost you extra money. Whether it comes to a corner lot, a scenic view, something that's on the lake, typically the better the location, the more that's added to the purchase price that's not necessarily always advertised on the forefront.
The second point is a lot of these new construction homes are actually not even built very well. It can have really low quality, which is the opposite of what you'd expect from a new construction home, especially when you're paying a premium price, you're expecting to get a premium product, but that's just not the way that it often pans out.
When you hear that nowadays, homes can be put up as quick as 6 months, where not a decade or two ago, it was more like a year or more, I think it starts to make sense why you might not see that same exact quality.
And the reality is a lot of these major builders, they're pumping out hundreds of homes, and overseeing that many subcontractors, it's easy for things to slip through the cracks.
Typically what we'll hear of how something is set up whenever it comes to electrical, plumbing, anything along those lines is there will be a street of homes that have been assembled by the framers before. The next trade group comes through and they move on to the next. So there is many times of vacant periods on these houses too, just in between the contractors, let alone the speed of the work these contractors are having to complete.
If you Google some of the major builders like D.R. Horton or Lennar, you're gonna see that there's a lot of complaints and lawsuits against them for having latent issues in their new construction. And a lot of this, it seeps through the cracks where even if you're getting an inspection, depending on things that have been covered up and hidden, you can still have some incredible issues with the home.
Now, even if you do have some of those items covered with a warranty, I've seen cases before where families have to move out of their brand new home to allow the warranty work to happen, if it can happen within a reasonable time frame in of itself. There's been other folks that have had to hire out private workers to get to pressing issues because the builder just can't quite make it there.
So a situation like that could literally cost you thousands of dollars, and you just moved into a new construction home and you're having to go potentially move into a rental while this work is done. That's an incredible headache and just a terrible situation to be in.
We all remember the fun of COVID and not being able to get our own items. Well, in new construction, some of those supply chain issues still last till today. We'll have buyers order a certain material just to find out 2-3 weeks later that's no longer available, and if they want something similar, it's gonna be an upcharge of X thousands of dollars. And that supply chain issues when it comes to construction is a prevailing and continuous item because there is so much construction demand that's happening. Even these builders sometimes don't know what's gonna show up to the job site until it's physically there.
So it could be way more expensive than you're expecting, and it can also delay the process because you could go under contract expecting your home to be complete in 7 or 8 months, and then an unexpected supply chain issue drags that out to well over a year. And so now you could be stuck in a rental waiting to move into your new home, and there's just really no telling on when that is ever actually gonna be complete.
Just like a brand new car, when you leave it off the lot, it will go down in value. A brand new home is very much so the same. And the reason for that is because if you're in a brand new house and you have to sell maybe quickly in that first 1 to 3 year period, you are directly competing against new homes that have had no one live in them yet.
And we get it, most people don't buy a new construction home expecting to have to sell in such a short time frame, but life changes. So you never know when your situation is going to change and you need to exit. The market could have tanked, that could affect anything, but with new construction, you could literally have the same builder have built the exact same model of your home, but that one's 2 or 3 years newer, no one's ever lived in it, competed to yours, and so the ability to compete is just not even close to a fair fight.
You quit with the magic and fight fair!
Just one last thing to mention is if you're gonna sell within 2 years of purchasing any home, but especially new construction, you have to pay capital gains on your proceeds, which further hurts being able to get out of these fast. And that's part of the premium that you're paying for on these homes. I had a couple that was under contract for a home that was right around the $350K price. They saw the model, they loved it. Upstairs, there was almost this bonus gaming room, right? We get under contract, we sit at the table to pick out the selections. Turns out the extra room that they liked was $10,000. $10,000 for maybe a 10 by 12. And all it was going to be if they didn't do that upgrade was an attic space and a narrow hallway. So that changed the whole feel of the house with a $10K price tag to get to where they wanted it to be. So that's why I say these premiums are no joke sometimes, especially if you think you're getting one house and it turns out to be totally different, right?
And a $10,000 price change, obviously you're paying more, but when it comes to a mortgage at these interest rates, that can be as much as like $100 a month. So if you haven't budgeted for that, you could find yourself in a lot of trouble.
A lot of Starbucks you could buy. I knew another agent who had a client that chose to forego her home inspection. She bought the house in the winter. Come spring, summertime, boy, was it getting warm. Turns out the HVAC was never set up. Besides just the fact it wasn't set up, the home warranty company took nearly 2 months of no AC to get out there. So that buyer had to go and get her own private HVAC installer to complete the job the builder just didn't simply do.
If you are buying a new construction home, always get an inspection. I know so many buyers, they think, oh, it's a brand new home, I don't need to get an inspection. If it was older, I would. That is the wrong way of thinking about it. You need to get an inspector out there. And they have infrared scanners that can actually show, like if there's any moisture that's gotten behind the drywall or anything like that, it can actually reveal that. Get an inspector to go out there, go through it with a fine-tooth comb, and you never know what kind of crazy things that they're gonna turn up, even major things that could be left uncompleted.
New construction homes aren't always an absolute terrible idea, but as you can see, we need to be careful about the details. One time I had a builder that had his architect double charge for materials and bounce off the job site halfway through. This is why you need to have someone with experience that understands the market to help you through this process.